Okay, hello and thanks for joining us. Today we are doing a live stream from Perth, WA. Perfect weather outside for a live stream. Today's topic will be men, boys and living with alopecia. So Dad and I will be talking all things alopecia, including fatherhood, masculinity and growing up bald. So, quick introductions. Hi, my name's Cam. I'm the WA Support Ambassador. I've had alopecia since I was 10 years old. I've gone through fluctuations in terms of hair growth. I've had patches. I've had zero hair, which is sort of what I'm at now. I've had nearly a full head of hair and sort of gone round and round and round until we've finally settled on this. So it started off pretty tricky, obviously. Growing up, it was sort of a lot tougher than it is now, but I finally sort of come to terms with it. I'm much more comfortable now. This is my dad, Greg, you take away.
Okay, so I'm Greg, I'm Cam's dad, as he said. So I've sort of don't have alopecia myself, but I've experienced alopecia, the impact it can have on a family and on a child, now a man. So hopefully today we can, Cam will talk about having alopecia himself, and I'll hopefully touch on some of maybe the parenting elements that we found useful with Cam when he was growing up. So back to the host.
Okay, so just before we get into it, a quick bit of housekeeping. The live stream after it's been streamed will be made available to watch on the AAAF page. So if you're busy now, you can tune in later and you'll still be able to see the comments coming through in real time, all that. As you can probably guess, this is our first time doing this whole live streaming thing. So any faults, lighting, connection, sound, just drop a comment. Let us know what's going on and we'll try to fix it as soon as possible. Comments and questions appreciated and encouraged. Even if you're watching post live on the Facebook page, a couple of days from now. Obviously we're limited for time. I think we've probably got around half an hour, maybe. We'll see how it ends up going. We'll try and answer as many questions as possible with the time we've got here. That being said, we've prepared a few pre-prepared questions. So while we're waiting for the questions to come in, we can sort of run over these and might spare some more questions from you or whatever. Okay, so with all that being said, take it away, Dad.
Or you're going to ask me a question.
Am I going to ask you questions?
You ask me my questions and vice versa.
Okay, so it's not uncommon to hear people say that alopecia must be easier for boys and men than it is for girls and women. What are your thoughts on that?
Okay, so I think there's a fair bit of evidence to suggest that boys certainly fare no better with alopecia than girls, and plenty of evidence to say that they often fare worse. And there's many reasons for this, I think, but very few of them are actually related to alopecia or hair loss, because a lot of people think, women and girls are more associated with hair than boys, therefore it must be more difficult. But boys probably often do worse than girls in many areas, including alopecia, because whether they're hardwired or preconditioned, boys often feel they need to man up about these things. So probably less men and boys, not as good at sort of seeking help, socialising it, seeking support, and often feeling they've got to sort of deal with this in their own way. And some kids are really good at that, at dealing with it, working out how to deal with it in their own way. Some kids not so good. So I guess message there is, you don't have to man up about alopecia. There's lots of support out there for boys and men. We have our own boys and men's page as well now. So if guys want to go on that, and hopefully a few of those guys are tuning in today. So I had a couple of notes here. Probably, just to make the point about women being more engaged. I don't know what the percentage figures are, but figures are who engage with our Facebook groups and whatever. But it's the women are vastly outweigh the men, probably by a ratio of about 4-1. It would be my guess. Georgia will actually have the real figures, but the women are a lot more willing to engage with alopecia. So, all right, I have a question for you now. So this is a tough one, but what do you think is different about the experiences that boys and men with alopecia might have compared to girls and women?
Well, I think obviously it's very similar in a lot of regards. It's the same condition, but society's the way it is. There's different expectations placed on different people. I do think, there's absolutely no reason to say it's harder for one gender than the other. It's a difficult condition for anyone, regardless of their gender. I do think, though, that with boys, there is sort of that, there's a weird sort of expectation. So, obviously, with AAAF, we work a lot with WIGS programs, etc. There's not as much of that. There's not that much of an alternative to sort of embracing your baldness as a male. There are various hair pieces available, but I think it's the expectation mainly that you sort of let it all go. You show yourself for who you are, and that can be daunting for some. Obviously, there are these pieces available, but people, males especially, are hesitant to approach them due to stigmas towards them. I think it's just it is that sad fact that we live in we live in a society where there is that whole man up culture. Men are expected to always be on top of things, be in control, and almost be not devoid of emotion, but they're limited in how much emotion they can show without seeming to others like almost unmanly. It's an awful thing to say, but that's the perception that a lot of people have in their heads. It's just with dealing with alopecia as a male, it's overcoming that whole thing. Understanding the fact it's okay not to be okay. And understanding that you are allowed to be scared. You are allowed to be shocked at what's happening. That's all.
All right. Have we got any questions?
Send the questions through if you got them.
If you got them, we've got a few more. So we can keep going for a little while on these, but we've got lots of likes and loves, which is nice. Cam, you feeling the love?
I'm feeling the love, absolutely, yeah.
But a few questions would be good, and we really want to take the opportunity to answer those. So
about anything, preferably to do with alopecia, but sort of if you got anything specifically related to men, boys, all that sort of thing, because that's sort of our area of expertise as men and boys.
All right. Well, while we're waiting, in the meantime, how much someone's doing awesome, lads.
Thank you, Jessica.
Good stuff. Thank you
very much.
All right. So I've got another question while we're waiting for one. So what experiences of living with alopecia do you think are same or similar similar regardless of gender? That's probably a little bit on the. Might have answered that in the last one.
Yeah, sort of answered it. It's it's something that affects people sort of the same way, regardless of your gender. It's sort of those feelings of isolation, these feelings of even though it's it's just a part of your body. It's it does really impact your ability to sort of fit in. Obviously, overcoming that's difficult for both genders. Sort of in terms of experiences, similar. You could look at I know a big one for me. I know for other people with alopecia is the questions, the stares, the pointing. You're always going to get that regardless of gender. I think it's important to recognise that alopecia it's a universal issue. It's not confined to one gender. And again, there's not one gender that has it better off or finds it easier.
I've got a quick, just on the strength of something you said. I've got another question for you, which probably a lot of people would be interested in. Is like you mentioned, the stares and the comments and everything. What's your advice? You're 19 now, but growing up as a teenager, where you can be very self-conscious. What's your advice on how to handle those sorts of issues?
Well, I'd say the main thing I'd say, or suggest rather, sort of ignoring it. I know the whole ignoring it seems a pretty daunting concept at first, but it's the people that point and that whisper things and that give you stares. They either come from the reason for it is normally it's twofold. It'll be what is the most widespread thing is it'll be from young kids, people that don't know better. So you can sort of narrow the reason down to being immature, and then the people that should know better, it's just almost not worth your time to worry about them, because when you think about it, like if you're taking time out of your day to make someone else feel isolated, different, alienated, whether intentionally or unintentionally, it's just it's quite an ignorant thing to do. So yeah, you can't really pay the people that should know better. You can't really pay them much mind. You sort of just got to try your best to ignore it. When posed with questions, I think it's important to realise that often it is coming from a place of ignorance. Like, what's the statistic with alopecia? Like, there's one in every however many people are affected. Up to 2% of the population. Up to 2% of the population is affected. So
it's actually a lot of people.
Yeah. So it's a lot of people, but it's still one of the conditions that's sort of, dare I say, like underground. It's not fully known. Obviously people who don't understand the disease will look at you, look at a bald, 10-year-old or whatever, and then immediately their mind jumps to, really severe diseases, and you can't really blame them for that because it's obviously not as widespread as other things. But yeah, it's just important to realise that when dealing with it, people will say things, but often it's meant with the best intentions. It's not meant to harm you, so you can't really get too worked up or too offended about it. That's what I found anyway.
All right, I'll answer the next one myself. I can give you a spell.
Yeah.
So the question there is what kind of tools and resources might help boys and men with alopecia areata who are having a hard time? And I'm going to give a big plug to our AAAF website. So go straight there as a first point if you haven't been there. Have a look at what's available there. There is a lot of resource there, and as well as that, of course, it gives you email addresses of support ambassadors and everything else. But I guess the real message is have a look on that, reach out, and don't be afraid to ask for help. I know when our family first encountered alopecia, there wasn't much. I think AAAF was very much in its infancy, and it's come a long way. There is a lot of resource. There's been a lot of hard work done by a lot of people. It's a wonderful organisation, and basically the mission is summed up as we want to make life better for people with alopecia. Simple as that. So, okay. What's the questions, guys? Come on, ask us anything.
Anything at all.
Next one, I think
that's part of your response.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I wrote myself some notes. For boys, so I also said boys and girls sometimes approach things differently, as we pointed out first. But I think activity-based learning is good for boys. We had a boys' camp here in WA. Hopefully, some of the people who are tuned in went along to that, and it was really enjoyable and effective. And And a number of boys who went along, I think that really changed their outlook on that, to know they weren't alone. We had sort of a lot of fun, but we had some sort of fairly deep and meaningful conversations with the kids as a group and the parents as a group. I think that was actually really effective in sort of breaking down those barriers. And there were boys there with alopecia who had never met anyone else with alopecia before. So just even that alone had Carlo come over from the East Coast, and James and Cam and I were there, and it was actually just a really good weekend. There's also, I think there's pretty good participation from boys in the annual kids camp, which has been running the last couple of years, so that's really good. So look out for those sorts of things, I'd say, and get involved, and don't be afraid to get involved. You'll find they're a lot of fun and very helpful. So
yeah, I think also the resources available now, as opposed to how long ago was it? 9 years ago when I was first sort of diagnosed. It's just incredible how sort of far we've come in terms of sort of preemptive, not preemptive, but support for people who are just sort of starting to find out about it. There's, again, the AAAF website, it's full of information packs. Yeah.
I think going back and, go back about a decade, and it's like, often cases you get a diagnosis from a dermatologist that you got this alopecia thing, and then pretty much for all that emotional support and grieving and everything that everyone actually goes through, everyone sort of thinks they can find a cure and all of this sort of stuff. It's really hard on parents and kids. Often in those days, if it's a young child, it's actually harder on the parents because the child isn't really super aware of what's going on. But the dermatologist pretty well let you go out and you're on your own, and it is really particularly tough for parents in that circumstance. So there's another one for you. These are. Is there any advice you give to men and boys living with alopecia areata, especially those who may have been recently diagnosed? So I guess.
So it's been a bloody long time since I was first diagnosed, so it's hard to sort of remember the feeling too vividly. I remember it was sort of basically what happened with me. I went through a very I'd say optimistic haircut. It was like a crew cut. Realised there's a patch there at the back, and this patch sort of started growing. And I think my initial sort of reaction was just shock. I was incredibly anxious. I didn't want to go anywhere at all.
Including school?
Yeah, no, absolutely. A lot of days where I'd be an absolute pain in the ass to my mother. She'd be trying to get me out the door, and I'd just be crying and just being absolute pain. But it was just all a lot to take in. So
you were in pain.
Oh, a little bit.
But it was hard. You're doing hard yards at that point.
Given that, advice for men or boys living with alopecia areata. It comes back to that thing I was saying before. It's just don't be afraid, to sort of to be upset about it. You don't have to be this emotional brick wall. Especially as a man, there's a lot of pressure to sort of be that, whatever, tall, strong, standing bloke. What's his name? The Old Spice guy. You don't have to be. You're allowed to feel, emotion. You're allowed to feel pain. You're allowed to feel, feelings of anxiety, sadness, isolation. These are all normal things. So the first step is acknowledging you're allowed to have feelings. I think that was an important thing for me. I think Mum's talked to me about this before, how I was very hesitant to sort of let her in. She was trying to help. Just let people in around you, let them know what's going on, and sort of build from there. I think once you sort of build that support base, there's the people that know and understand, it makes the rest of the process so the byproducts, the negative byproducts of having alopecia. So the stares, the comments, all that. If you have that support base of people around you that know exactly what it is that you're going through and know exactly how you feel about it, and sort of know when something's going to upset you or something like that, I think that makes the whole process a lot easier.
Right.
Certainly did for me anyway.
We've actually got 12 comments, so, but before we go to those, I think you've got to scroll down, so they might be questions. But we might go to that. But I was just going to say, Cam, that's good. So we'll get to those questions. Thanks. We didn't actually, we were let down by our knowledge of the technology, but we're right now. But I was going to say, how important was it? I mean, one of the things a lot of people who have alopecia think when they get it is that all their friends are going to think they're weird and all of this sort of stuff, and you hear that a lot. But how important was it for you to be accepted by your friends, your peer group?
Well, I think if you say that, it's sort of I don't know. I don't think acceptance was much the problem. I think the problem, or the main benefit of my friends in the situation, was their understanding the situation, and so the acceptance of my friends, I think that that came afterwards. But I think the first primary thing is just the letting them know what's going on, so they can understand and so they can help you when you need help. And just having the friends by me like that, having friends that understood the situation was, bloody incredible, because it was like, you've got however many people just ready to help you whenever, ready to step in if there's any sort of thing that's making you uncomfortable. So the friends it's going to sound weird saying it, but they're an important tool in sort of coping and embracing and accepting your alopecia, I think.
Yep. Can you scroll up to the first question?
Scroll up. So, first question. Oh, thank you, Marilla. I'll give you a love react for that. Naomi Hall. Probably a hard question, but do you have any suggestions as to how to encourage men and boys to be more involved with the sport and the community that there is out there? What type of events or groups would help raise that engagement, do you think? So you know about all the groups and stuff, so I'll let you...
Okay. How to encourage men and boys to be more involved, how to encourage them. There certainly is support out there. There's a lot of stuff. There's something happening on Friday night in Sydney, for instance. We do things from time to time. I guess I'm wondering if it's a husband or a son, but either way, we have a sort of Facebook page, men's group, but join your local one as well. Join your local state one where you'll see activities. We've got some activities coming up in WA, for instance. In August we've got the pizza night, which is always good fun, Cam, isn't it?
Absolutely, Alopecia.
And we'll be there, Alopecia. So, but there'll be other activities, and certainly if you get involved, you can certainly suggest things, and better still, you can help organise things as well. If you want to get involved, that's, I guess, a suggestion. As I said, it's a good question, because the engagement with women and girls is a lot higher. So we'd like to see more men and boys involved as well. So
Marcine Kelly. Scalp micropigmentation, also known as hair tattoo, is a great alternative for people with alopecia.
Yep. So, micro scalp pigmentation, MSP, I think they sometimes call it. So I haven't actually seen anyone with it, but I've seen pictures, and it does actually look. It's designed to look like you've got a shaved head rather than no hair. So there's a lot of people who go around with shaved heads. So it's sort of something, if you're concerned about appearance, or you don't want to get less looks, probably looks a bit more natural. It actually does, from what I can understand. As I said, I'd really like to sort of see someone live with it, but from what I can see, it actually does give the illusion of a shaved head, and you can look it up on the website. There's people around the country who do it. So
Julene Reddo, I've mispronounced your name, Julene. I'm so sorry. Julene. Finally shaved it off. It took 35 years. I'm very happy for you, but how bloody cold is it at the moment? Stepped out this morning, freezing on the head. Julian says they didn't have support groups 35 years ago. Thank you for raising awareness. Thank you for joining, Julian.
Thanks for your comment.
Thanks for your comment. Yeah, thank you very much. Julian says, what are you doing to reduce stigma around women with alopecia who don't wear wigs?
Okay, well, we're sort of talking about men and boys tonight, but certainly I think probably not the best person to answer that, but I will, as a committee member, say that we're doing a hell of a lot of work with awareness and to make, I guess one of the great things of living in this age is acceptance of diversity, and people are more willing to accept something they understand. So the image of a woman with no hair is a lot more out there than it used to be 35 years ago.
Out there as in acceptable and accepted. Not as in out there as in.
Oh no, yeah, correct. Thanks for clarifying. So it's more, in awareness terms, we're trying to spread awareness, but it's a real personal choice, of course, but there are more and more women choosing not to wear wigs, and that's entirely a choice. And there's nothing wrong with wearing a wig either. By the way, it's entirely a choice, but look, I mean, there's I guess it's a stigma around women with alopecia, possibly less of a stigma for men, because a lot of men have sort of male pattern baldness anyway, so I guess it's sort of something that you're more used to seeing. But certainly a teenage boy with no hair is not something you see all the time either, so there is, there's probably a stigma associated with that as well. Like it's just something that people aren't used to seeing. So, okay, we're working very hard to increase awareness.
So the hashtag bald is beautiful is what it is.
Yeah.
Finally, medical community are recognising as a medical condition which allows for tax breaks. Support that. Julian says, so proud of you. Thank you so much, Julian. You're the favourite of the day. Thank you so much for all your comments. Sean Donovan. Hello. Sean Donovan says, what advice would you give boys first experiencing alopecia? Well, we sort of touched on that before, Sean. What else? Did I miss anything, do you think? Boys first experiencing alopecia.
Yeah, look, I think it's actually a really good question, Sean. One of the things I'd say from a parent's perspective is I've seen the way young boys, there's a few hopefully when they're particularly young and they think they're the only person in the world who has alopecia. I think seeing someone else or meeting someone else with alopecia who's doing okay with it is actually hugely beneficial and will increase their confidence. That of course applies to girls with alopecia just as well. So thanks for the question.
Yep, and I think from a parenting point of view, when the child first has alopecia, I think it's very important to sort of not immediately rush to cover the head up and sort of make clear to them that it is, it's very okay for them to be bald. It's not as uncommon as you might think, but it's not a bad thing to be bald. I think that's very important because often if you sort of you see it a fair bit, if you have an overly sort of protective parent, that then, once you pass the whole phase of, parental involvement, or high parental involvement in the child's life, once they've sort of, had have that sort of involvement stripped back a bit, it sort of leaves the child a bit vulnerable and don't really know what to do because they've sort of had their whole experience with alopecia, being overly supported and overly protected, I'd say. So it's important to find that balance between good support and then also allowing a bit of I don't know what I'm trying to say. I'm not sure if intuition is right. You gotta make sure that you're not being too protective, because that in a child's mind will sort of make it sound like there's something that needs to be protected, like it's something that you've got to hide or something. But yeah, thank you for your question, Sean. Very much appreciated. Kimberly Trimble sends 3 blue love hearts. Thank you, Kimberly. Julian Redo says education is key. Support helps us all. Yeah, exactly. Spread awareness.
Thank you, Julian. Geordie Hindmarsh sends a lot of man love.
Thank you, Geordie Hindmarsh. Thank you very much. Julian is from Long Beach, California. How about that?
Okay. We've gone global.
We've gone worldwide.
Who would have thought?
Big shout out to Pitbull, also Mr. Worldwide. Gabrielle Bartlett says hello, or in a wave. Hello to you, Gabrielle. Matt Lloyd sends love. It's all love right now. This is beautiful, actually. Sam Wood says love. Nadi J, I've definitely mispronounced your name, but it says hi. Hello, Nadi. It's more love. It's more love. It's more love. Okay, thank you for doing this. Is it hard getting so much attention while you're in public? What makes you feel better? Yeah, I think sort of goes back to what we were talking about before. It is difficult initially, and for a lot of people, that initial phase doesn't really pass as such. Like, I mean, I know for me, I'm sort of okay with the stares and stuff, but there's still comments that I can get from people, when I'm out, that sort of do still irk me. What was the question? Is it hard getting so much attention? Yeah, it's difficult. It's very difficult initially, and I think if you know someone with alopecia, it's very important to support them through that initial phase, because first stepping out, being a completely different person to your pre-alopecia self, it's difficult. It's it's absolutely it's a big change. So it's just important to stick by them, make sure they have the support they need. What makes you feel better? Yeah, just support. Just support from people around me. Also, just knowing that whenever someone does say, I touched on it before, but whenever someone does say something, in a snide or in an aggravated manner, you know that if they're if you're someone that makes fun of someone for something they can't control, that's sort of more of a reflection on the person that's making these comments. Less a reflection on the person. Obviously, having alopecia, you can't change that, and if people are going to comment and make you feel lesser, then that's really poor on them. So
you could actually use it as a opportunity to educate.
Could do that. But yeah, no, it's so that sort of does make me feel better, I wouldn't say, but it's just that stops me from feeling sort of sad and bad enough about things, because it's like, well, if they're taking the time out of their day to do something bad, shows the type of person they are. Thanks for the comment, Nadi. Jenny, hello Lisa, hello Campbell as well. Okay, that'll be right.
Lisa's watching with her, Campbell.
Yeah, it's Campbell.
Named after you?
Exactly, named after me. You can confirm that in the comments if you want, Lisa. Anna, Mina and Muna says, since 1970, my family continues to have negative perceptions regarding my baldness and choosing to go bald and not wear head covering. What do you say about that?
Let's say about that. That's disappointing.
Disappointing,
yeah. It is interesting, like this negative perceptions and that, because I'll just sort of say this off the bat as a dad. Obviously, when Cam got alopecia, it was a huge shock to me. But when I look at Cam now, I don't even say baldness. Yeah. I just don't see it. I just see Cam. I just see my son. Yeah. See the son that I love, and so it's just him. It's just part of him. It's not something we chose, but it sort of is what it is, and we. I just can't imagine having hair.
I've actually done face swaps. Seeing me with hair is horrific at this point, so it's probably a good thing, all things considered.
All right.
So yeah, regarding that, you've got nothing to be ashamed of. embrace it. Continue to embrace it. If your family's going to be like that, then that's a reflection on them. But yeah, no, keep being proud of who you are, because there's nothing wrong with that.
That's a good question. I think might take that one offline. If George is listening, she might want to get back to you on that one too, because
I'll actually make a note now.
Yeah.
Another comment from Julian. Jeepers, Julian. Thank you very much again. Thank you so much. No, thank you.
Thanks for tuning in from so far away.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's probably like 4 o'clock in the morning there or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Isn't it? California.
Yeah. Let us know what's going on in California, Julian, if you're there. Ethan and Steve-O, thank you very much, man. Antoinette says, many thanks to you for joining in, Antoinette. Selena Phillips says, thank you for sharing from Alabama. Good day from Alabama, another worldwide citizen. Thank you very much.
Sweet home.
Sweet home, Alabama, absolutely. He's got all the jokes.
Melbourne.
Good day from Melbourne.
Zach Fry's joined the...
Zach Fry's joined.
You're a bit late, Zach.
Yeah.
I've been going for quite a while, mate.
No, it's clear how much you care about me, Zach. It's fine. Don't worry about it. Ezra Yildiz, another mispronounced name. I'm very sorry, but thank you for your comment. How many years do you have you had alopecia for? So it came out mid 2010, so probably coming on 9 years now.
9 years.
9 years now. So yeah, nearly half of my life. So I've sort of reached the stage of acceptance now. And I sort of like it now, because having hair right now would be.
All right, so Ezra's, I think she asked the same question again. So
Ezra says the same question. Thank you very much for the question. Zach says love. Thank you. Beck Goldsworthy says, you have a fantastic attitude. Thank you very much, Beck.
How do you know she's talking about you?
It's not talking about you. You've got an awful attitude. How long did it take for you to be so accepting and worry less about what people thought? You might be able to help me on this. I can't remember. There was no point where I was like, okay, done, I'm going to accept it now. It was a very gradual process over time.
I think it was gradual too.
Yeah.
From my observation, I think you gradually got more confidence with it, and then I think there was a certain time when you would actually not shy away from it, and you got confidence, and if someone asked you about it, you're quite open about it, which is probably part of acceptance and everything. So I'd say that process is a few years. I'd say I probably came out of year 8. I'd say, having accepted it. So what's that? 3 years. But yeah, no, it's been blips since then. There have been times. I mean, even in like the summer of 2016, I never went anywhere without a hat. I'm not sure really whether that was as some sort of fashion look, or whether it was some form of self-consciousness. But yeah, no, it comes and goes in waves. There'll be times where I'm, incredibly accepting of myself, and then there'll be times when I doubt myself, and there'll be times when these comments do get to me. It's just it's not like black and white. It hasn't gone scared, accepting. It's a gradual process, and it varies for everyone. So that did something did twig with me just when you said that. We were down south, and we were off to the beach, and I said, "Cam, grab a hat," and he said to me, "Why?" Because I'm ashamed I've got alopecia, and I said, "No, because you'll get sunburn." So, and I remember him actually saying that to me, like, "I'm not ashamed of having alopecia," and that would have been, I don't know, I reckon you were maybe about 13, 14, something like that, about that age.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, comment for you, Dad. Jack, thank you very much. Anna Mena Amuna says, you are an amazing dad, and your son as well. It's a fact.
I'll just say thank you very much.
He's amazing. Amazing man, amazing dad with an amazing beard. Selena Phillips says, I think it's really when they are not educated. When I explain to them what alopecia is, they are so much more supportive, family, friends, strangers. Absolutely. It's so much easier to communicate with people when they are educated on the issue. And that brings back what Dad was saying before. Any sort of confrontation with people, whether it be comments or whatever, can be used as as a forum for education. You can educate people from that. And it's probably not a bad idea to actually do that. And then it's sort of, what I found, it's sort of, butterfly effect's the wrong word, I'm trying to think of the word it is. Knock-on effect. So you educate one person, they educate two, and eventually, your whole sort of circle of people around you sort of understand what it is, and it just makes it so much easier. As it is, hello from Turkey. We are actually going global right now.
That's right.
Marilla, you flatter me so much, Marilla. Thank you so much. Cam, you could be a DJ with your great radio voice. Thank you. I'll look into it. If you got any opportunities, text me. Ezra Yildiz says, my son is 10 years old. He has had alopecia since 2 years old. Oh.
Be interesting. So Ezra, I think he's from Turkey. So
yeah.
Interesting to see what sort of support they've got in Turkey. But anyway, you're very welcome to jump on our website and have a look at some of the support there. And thanks for joining our forum. I really appreciate it.
Yep. Triple AF on Google. If you look for it. Lisa Power says you're amazing, Rick. Thank you so much.
We miss Selena.
I miss Selena. I've had it since I was 7. I'm now 30. Wow, that's 23 years. That's very, yeah. Got any experiences to share, Selena? Let us know. Any questions? Happy to answer them.
Lisa Power.
Lisa, again.
Just for the benefit of people, Lisa is an old school teacher of Cam's from kindy?
From pre-primary, yeah.
Pre-primary, yeah.
Campbell, thank you so much. Love your name. Love your work. Ian Rutherford says, Campbell, love the moustache. Keep it up, kiddo. And your support never continues. Never fails to amaze me. Selena says, this made my day. Ezra says, thank you also. And that is all the questions we got.
So we got a couple more.
We've got a couple more questions, so we'll just run them through. If you've got any questions before we wrap it up, because we're nearing sort of the end time, just post them.
So this is a question. Maybe you can ask it of me.
Absolutely. When a child has alopecia, this can have an impact on parents. What kind of experiences or feelings do you think are common for fathers or children with alopecia? Fathers of children with alopecia, sorry.
Okay, so, and I sort of touched on this a bit earlier, but I think any parent will have similar feelings when they first encounter alopecia. And like many people, I'd never heard of it until we were impacted as a family, and I think your first reaction is an overwhelming sense of fear for the future, that, how's this going to impact my son's life, what's it going to be like, and you worry as a parent. You often live your life through your kids, and so it's very natural to have these worries and fears. In my case, my search for knowledge and understanding led me to the AAAF, where I found fantastic support. And before too long, I became the WA branch manager. So that was, I think I've been doing that for 9 years. It's been a long time, but it's been really good. Involvement is. This involvement's been very beneficial to me in helping me to be a better father, I hope. And I was just going to touch on, Cam, this issue of using your experience to help others. How does that actually help you, do you think?
So what was the question?
So the question really is, I'll sort of answered a little bit that sort of me in this role and helping others being really helpful to me. But if someone with alopecia helping other people with alopecia, how does that impact on you?
Well, I mean, obviously it impacts you sort of in the same way as helping anyone would impact anyone. So it sort of gives you an immense feeling of happiness, pride, whatever. But also, hearing someone else's perspective, someone that's perhaps less experienced or more experienced than you with alopecia, hearing what they've gone through, how they're dealing with it. I think that for you to have sort of a bank of different experiences in your head, give you different tactics to approach your own alopecia. I think that's a good thing. Which is I think where the AAAF comes into its own. I think being able to communicate so easily with other people with the condition, I think that does wonders. Not only to dispelling those feelings of isolation, etc., But in terms of improving your own experience and sort of learning from others what they've tried that's worked, what they've tried that potentially hasn't worked as well. I think communication with other people is excellent in whatever form it takes.
Another question from Frank Nguyen. And I think Frank's on our men's page.
Welcome, Frank. Frank says, I've embraced being bald, however, I haven't lost all my hair yet. At the moment, I'd rather have no hair at all than having to deal with half a head of hair. You guys are doing great. Frank, I suggest you shave it off. The reason I say that is because I I hung on to I had these patches. It sort of looked, I think it looked, a bit like a hyena-ish, in a sense. I sort of hung on to that in hindsight for much longer than I sort of should have. Obviously it's your choice, but if you're saying there you'd rather have no hair at all, I'd say shave it off. You can get sort of razors from supermarkets, whatever, or you can sort of invest in sort of a more high-end electric one, which still aren't overly expensive. They're pretty affordable still. I think that was a good thing for me, not just in terms of not looking like a savannah animal anymore. It was good in the sense that once it all went, it helped me to sort of finally embrace it. I was no longer, and this is going to be different for everyone, I was no longer sort of clinging onto that bit of hair that I had. Thank you for your comment, Frank.
It's pretty low regret though, because if you shave it off, you can always grow it back.
Exactly.
So low regret.
Absolutely.
Give it a crack. That's what we reckon.
This is probably going to be a question more for you, Dad, because I got no clue. Ezra Yildiz says, "Can you tell us about what treatments you have tried?"
I think we tried most of the sort of ones that were recommended by.
We never tried needles.
No, we didn't do needles in the head, which is the steroids.
Yeah.
We
tried.
That's one where the treatment can be worse than the cure. Sort of.
We tried steroids of some form.
Yeah.
And obviously
minoxidil.
Which I found sort of in the end probably did. I mean, it's going to change from person to person, so I can't give you a medical recommendation, but I sort of found that sort of affect me quite negatively mentally. I was sort of very grumpy, short, sad all the time. It helped me grow back my hair, but it was only sort of temporary. When I got off the medication, it all fell away. But there are resources on the AAAF page in terms of medications, etc.
It's basically, if you go to the AAAF website, and as Cam suggested before, you can Google it. There's actually a list of all the known treatments.
Yeah.
And there's also some good information about current research that's going on, which is fairly promising. So.
Yeah. I think it's important if you're thinking of going down that path. Important researching it first. Making sure you research not just the positive effects that can come from it, but also the perhaps the negatives, just so you know what you're getting into. Because I felt that the experience was a bit tough for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there any other questions up there? Thank you.
Thank you, Frank. Thank you, Nadine. Thank you, everyone.
There was one other question that no one has asked.
Do you want me to ask it to you?
Yeah, the last one.
Absolutely. The final question is there any advice you would give to a father of children with alopecia areata, especially someone who may have been recently diagnosed?
So this is from a parent's perspective, and my advice here is just be there for your child. I think it's very important, despite the very natural worries and fears you may have, for you to remain positive for your child. If you appear worried in the presence of your child, they're very good at reading this worry, and that won't help them. So just be there for them, help to build support networks, let them know that you love them. Another thing I would recommend is to get involved with the AAAF. Lots of mums involved, a lot less dads, room for plenty more. Big advantage in getting involved is helping a child to meet others with alopecia, meeting other parents, comparing notes, etc., being better informed, and which are all good tools for being a supportive parent. So, yeah, get on board.
Absolutely.
Is there anything else coming
There
through?
are no questions.
Just scrolled in because I think it's.
Oh, hang on, there is a question. Okay, from Andrew Evgenidis. Hey, been totalis for nearly 10 years. I've tried needles, creams, minoxidil, flew to dermatology hospital in Greece, went through painful injection. After injection, hair did grow back, but white and fell out 3 to 4 months later. Yeah, well, that's, I think...
That's the roller coaster.
Yeah, I don't know much about the sort of medical side of it, but I do know that there's no one cure for alopecia. There's research into a lot of different things. We're making significant progress, I'd say, in that regard. But there's no... Everyone will have different reactions to different to treatments. You know, there's no guarantee that any treatment will work 100%, but there's no guarantee it won't work as well. So if you're that way inclined, absolutely encourage you to try it. But yeah, as you said, it's not an easy thing. There's no, because people's bodies, it's an autoimmune deficiency, so people's bodies react in a different way. That's a common thing that we've sort of seen.
There's another comment.
There's another comment. Sure.
Yep.
Connor Levy says...
Anthony Fantano.
Connor Levy says... Muscle, love heart. Thank you very much, Connie. Harry BJ says, do you feel that other bald icons like Anthony Fantano and Sean Evans have helped you love yourself and your baldness? I would say yes to that. And but there's a few others that I got to mention. Your Barry Halls of the world, Pitbull, Adam 22. Yeah, not just the ones you mentioned, but yeah. Charlie Villanova, Vern Troyer, rest in peace. But yeah, no, absolutely. Good to see bald people in high places. Has anyone got any more questions? We've reached the 52-minute mark. We're out of questions. What's going on? Anyone want questions answered? Your time is limited.
Nick Marsh just joined.
Welcome, Nick Marsh. Nice to see you.
Anyway, look, this is going to, once we've finished, I'll do this stuff and this will be available so people can go back and have a look at this in their own time. And you're also welcome to ask questions even after we're not live anymore.
Yep. For the next couple of days, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have in the comments below. Or if you'd rather message me, that's fine as well. But yeah, the video will be up indefinitely, so feel free to leave comments as long as you want. Nardi J says, you two are amazing. My boy will turn 2 tomorrow and diagnosed with AA recently. Hope he will be strong just like you in the future. Good luck. Well, good luck to you, Nardi. Thank you very much for your comment. Absolutely. Well, it's clearly supporting very well, so yeah, good signs. Anything else to say?
No, that's good. Obviously, I think you're showing all the signs of being a really great mum, Nadi. So
Yeah, absolutely. Support.
Everything I said, and you look like you're doing it. So just be there for him and socialise it. And I think really important to let people with alopecia know that it's not their fault. They haven't done anything wrong. It's just the way it is. They didn't. They've got nothing to be ashamed of, I think, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. Sigurd says, well done, lads. Andrew says, 100% correct, guys. Good work. Thank you very much, both of you. Andrew Evgenidis, no new treatments out, they're new testing. You can answer this one. I think there
is some clinical trials going on at the moment, and you can read about them on our website. I'm not a medico, so not really qualified to talk too much about them, but have a look at it. There is some promising research going on at the moment.
Consistently research going on all around the world. Beck Goldworthy, thank you for sharing your experience. Thank you for joining, Beck. Okay, so we've hit the 54-minute mark. What do you reckon?
I think we better wind it up. Yeah.
Wrap it up. All right, well, thank you everyone for joining. It's been much smoother, much better than sort of I expected, certainly. Thank you for all your questions. Again, if you've got any more questions, feel free to leave them in the comments, and I'll be scrolling them for the next 2 days. I'm trying to get back to as many people as possible. And yeah, thank you very, very much for being such a good crowd, making us feel welcome and comfortable.
Yep.
I think on our first time doing this. Maybe more to come, who knows? Anything you'd like to say?
No, just look, thanks for joining us. Hopefully it's been useful. Message for boys and men, get involved. Look for help. Don't be ashamed. Don't be afraid to look for help. And yeah, just go with it. We need more dads involved as well.
Dads, bring in. Yeah.
All right.
Absolutely. All right. Well, if that's it, then that's it. Daniel Martis, Reed Bevan said, Bargain, you're very late. We're about to finish.
They obviously got the time zones mixed up.
Yeah, no, that's fine. No, don't worry about it. Happens to the best of us. All right. Well, thank you very much, everyone, for joining. It's been a pleasure. We ready to go?
We can end there. All right.
Thank you very much.
See ya.